Morning, guys. Good morning, good morning. Missed y'all. Welcome back. You guys, I am tired. Moving sucks. I think next time I'm gonna hire someone to move me. Oh my goodness. Alright, let me pull up our overnight levels real quick. Mark off Asia high, Asia low, all that stuff. It is coming down to VWAP. Normally I would like a trade on a bounce off of VWAP, but we do have market opening in 2 minutes, so I will wait. Here is our London high. We have a little gap where we opened up, so I have an alert set up there. All right, there's our overnight levels. You used to be a professional mover. Oh my goodness. My body hurts. Monday and Wednesday, we did a lot of the like random little small box items, but Tuesday was the big day with their furniture and like washer and dryer and refrigerator and all that stuff. After Tuesday, Wednesday morning, I woke up and my body hurt. It made me feel really old. All right, market's open, guys. All right, drop below VWAP. We have yesterday's value area low and Asia low down here. If that doesn't hold, we could come down to this zone around 25,139 or this red box. I like this box better for a bounce. But we'll see what happens at Asia low. Gold is dumping too. Yeah, I just saw that, G-Man. Jeez. Well, it bounced at value area low. It's moving back up. It came close to Asia low though. So I wonder if it'll come down a little bit lower. Well, thanks. Kyla Breel, is that how you say it? Is Kyla your first name? All right, let's start marking off 15-minute range. Good morning, Kevin. Opening up a little bit heavy. I'm going to see what happens at Asia low. Might get a decent liquidity sweep opportunity. But this opening candle, dumping hard. So if I do take a long at Asia low, I'm not saying I am, but if I do, it might just be a little scalp and like trail profit quickly. Or trail stop loss quickly. Because we might be going against the trend. It's a pretty heavy opening candle. Goodness. Nothing but down so far. All right, zooming into the 1 minute to see if we get kind of a liquidity sweep entry confirmation. I look for a quick aggressive buy up so that it leaves a wick on the downside. It's bouncing a little bit. We'll see how this 1 minute candle closes. Trying to hold on. A short right off the open would have been the way to go. All right. It kind of tried to bounce a little bit, but it just kept going down. So at this point, that red box is kind of what I'm watching for. 25.82 maybe. We also have a little bit of chop here to the left around like 25.149. Yeah, gold bounced hard. That was a wild move. Definitely the kind of move that can blow some accounts on gold. Possible reaction around this level. If that doesn't hold, we can watch for the next red box. But that's kind of what I'm staying patient for. Jeez. These are big moves, you guys. Don't chase it. All right, coming back up to our New York anchored VWAP. Coming down from the Nvidia spike last night, possibly. That was up here. So we're already below that. 5 more minutes until our 15-minute opening range is set. Gonna let this thing settle a little bit. So far, it's rejecting that New York anchored VWAP, though. I like that. Let's see if it comes down to 25 150s. Yeah, kind of trying to find support. But also still rejecting some resistance levels. Chopping around a little bit. Lots of indecision. G-Man's long on gold. Good luck. We have a gap on QQQ. VIX is just booming. There you go, G-Man. Us working out for you. Definitely looks like it's trying to find some sort of support. But there's no continuation up. So I'm not looking for longs yet. I think it'll maybe come a little bit lower before it bounces, if it does. So far, this is our 15-minute opening range low. So this was our big bullish 8:30 a.m. opening candle, or 9:30 a.m. Eastern candle yesterday. I'm just wondering if it's going to retrace any of that. Buyers are definitely putting up a fight here, though. Jackson, I took one trade yesterday. There was that trade idea that I posted in Discord. I was saying I'm watching this level that I think it was 350 or something like that for a short. And it rejected perfectly at that level, but I missed it because I was on the phone with our internet provider. We got our internet hooked up on Monday, but they hadn't buried the cables yet. So it was someone like calling to schedule a time to come bury the cables, and I missed it. It kind of peaked a little bit outside that 15-minute opening range. Getting a decent bounce. Still looking for it to maybe come a little bit lower before it bounces, if it does. No, G-Man, actually, we downsized a little bit. Just simplifying things. We had a huge house with a bunch of equity, and we just decided to put it up on the market and see what we would get. And we had someone come in within less than 60 days and offer full price. So we're like, why not? And we put it out, like, we didn't price it aggressively. We priced it at market value. So we're like, dang, can't pass that up. Still kind of flirting with this opening range low. No candle closures outside of it. Buyers are trying to hold. Yeah, 60 days on the market and full price. It was just one of those things where, like, we prayed about it and we're like, all right, if God wants us to do this, then bring a buyer at full price. That's what my husband's prayer was. And it happened. So we're like, okay, I guess that's what we're meant to do. We are actually renting right now just because it happened so fast and we didn't have a chance to, like, even go shopping for a house. And it's kind of nice to not be tied to anything. That's one thing. And we've flirted with the idea of homeschooling our kids and traveling. So it just kind of keeps that option as a possibility, perhaps. I'm going to see what happens at this New York anchored VWAP. It looks like buyers are trying to defend this level. I wonder if it's a fake 15-minute opening range breakout. If this thing breaks back above this anchored VWAP with volume, might be looking for longs. No, still looking pretty weak. You just moved to a new country instead. We've actually thought about that too. We've done a lot of research on different countries. Troy Mac, where do you live? What country did you move to? Costa Rica, yeah, that was one of the places we looked. I actually looked at Nicaragua too. Just because from what I've heard, Costa Rica is getting more expensive. So the whole idea of like simplifying and moving to a cheaper cost of living country it's harder to do in Costa Rica now. But from the research I did, Nicaragua had the same like weather and all that stuff, but it was a lot cheaper. So we went and visited. That was our first candle closure outside of the 15-minute opening range low. If it does happen to come back up to this New York anchored VWAP and retest before continuing down, I would consider a short. But I'm also watching this red box area to see if we get a bounce for a long. So those are the two levels I'm kind of watching. Short if it comes back up to VWAP, or long if we get a lot of buying in this area. Yeah, so we didn't love, like, Nicaragua was great. I don't know if we would want to live there. Panama is also on our list too. We've done a lot of research for that area, several cities there, or towns, I guess. This is very wiki, you guys. There's a lot of indecision in these candles. I'm not in any trades right now. I'm watching for a possible return to this New York anchored VWAP for a short, or a return to this red level for a bounce for longs, maybe. But with confirmation at each of those levels, because it's pretty wicky. I'm not seeing like good momentum either way. Because this gray zone right here is a high volume node. So it could be holding here and then gather steam and just break back to the upside. All right, again, I'm going to watch and see what happens at this New York Anchor VWAP, which is at like 255. If we reclaim that, our drop could be done for now. Nice, Verisat got in at 200. You love those round numbers. Yeah, 160-ish is kind of where I was watching. It's like the top of my red box area too. This is not a super heavy, aggressive drop. Which kind of makes me wonder if buyers are accumulating this thing and it's just going to explode once it reaches whatever level it needs to. All right, let's see what happens down here. Going camping tomorrow. That's fun. Where are you going camping? And is it like real camping, like in a tent and going to the bathroom in the woods? Or do you have like a cabin or a camp trailer or something like that? Either way, getting out and away from the world is always fun. We have a travel trailer. So ours is, I guess, more like glamping. I don't know. We have AC and stuff and beds. But also no Wi-Fi and no TV and just a tree and a stick for the kids to play with and riding their bikes and all that. That's my favorite part about camping, is just getting out of civilization without all the distractions and electronics. You love winter camping. I guess it depends on where you live. If you're like camping in the snow, I don't know about that. But if it's like in the 40s or 50s, that wouldn't be bad. Because then you can sit by the fire and it's nice. Getting some movement down. That sounds nice, Jack. Enjoy. $90 in Phoenix. Yeah, I'm in the Houston area, Houston, Texas, and it's supposed to get up into the 80s today. This is the kind of year where it's like bipolar. You never know from year to year. We could have a freeze in February, or like the roads are icy and you have to worry about your pipes bursting. Or it could feel like summer is right around the corner. All right, so far not seeing much of a bounce reaction. I like this box down here better at like 25.80ish. The reason I drew the one that we're in right now is that was the 9:30 open candle from yesterday's New York session. And I mean, if you're a fair value gap trader, you can see that there was a pretty big gap on that opening candle. But we're not getting much of a bounce reaction here. As of now, at least. That could change. I'm still watching it. All right. There's the reaction I was looking for. I'm entering along. 161 is where I got in. Maybe waited a little too long to get in on that. Should have trusted my level. Look at that. Dang. That was pretty clean to the bottom of that level. Gonna see what happens at this New York anchored VWAP if it gets up there. Or if this thing stays strong, we could potentially ride it a little bit further, maybe up to that VWAP, but I'm not gonna count my chickens before they hatch. Stop loss is at 140. Snow is beautiful until you live in a snowy area. Absolutely. I think it's fun if you like vacation there and you like take the kids sledding, or you're sitting in your living room with like some hot chocolate, looking at the beautiful snow in the front yard. But if you have to like live in it and drive in it and shovel it out of your driveway, I feel like with kids too, it would be hard because there's so many layers. Like with little kids putting on their boots and jackets and gloves and hats and all that, that would be a pain in the butt. Not looking great for the continuation on this bounce. Man, looking at gold on another screen. Zooming out to like the 5-minute, it's not going anywhere. How do you trade that? Jeez. Come on, NQ. The way I chose this level was looking left. This right here was the New York open candle at 9:30 yesterday, right there. And if you look to the left of that candle, there was quite a bit of accumulation. So that's how I kind of drew that box. So I drew that, and then the reason for entering was the fact that it bounced and held, but we're not getting the continuation that I would like to see. Come on. They're trying to hold it. Come on, just blast off to the upside. Go. All right. Doesn't look like the bounce is going to hold. Oh my gosh. Are you serious? Jeez. What the heck? Now watch. If this thing does end up going back down and hitting my stop loss, it's just playing with me. Just playing games with me. This is too funny. NQ, you're just messing with me. Do it already. Oh, there it is. I knew it was coming. Alrighty. Dang. So this is the next bounce area I have on watch, but zooming out to the 30-minute, I mean, look at that. Look at those candles. That's ugly to try to catch. Our 60-minute initial balance is set in 17 minutes. That is a crazy opening drop, you guys. Those red candles. Ouch. See if they give us any sort of pullback at this point. Crazy drop. So we are coming into the weekly anchored VWAP at like 25.23, and then our previous day low at 25K. Gave back all of yesterday's rally. Yeah. That was a huge drop. What a move. Definitely not going to try to catch a falling knife. That's insane. We haven't seen a single green candle since that tiny little one at 9:35. 5 minutes into the open. Other than that, straight down. Let's see, we're at previous day low and 25K, which, you know, is a round psych number. Let's see if it bounces. "13 minutes until the initial balance is set." I think that's what I'm waiting for at this point. Holy cow. I know there was a Fed speaker earlier. He's done, though. What is this all about? Maybe take a pullback short. Yeah, if it ever gives us one. Where is this thing headed? Decent support around 24,830-ish. Otherwise, 24,700. But dang. Don't want to just jump in. Look at those hourly candles, you guys. Nvidia's down almost 5% on the day. Hey, Waffles. No, I didn't catch it. Maybe something broke on Nvidia. Is that what you're talking about? No idea. Aw, caught a flat tire and missed it. Oh, the market broke? Well, all the volatility is in NQ. Because if you look at gold, it's still not doing anything. Gold's pretty choppy. Really, if you zoom out on like the 30-minute or hourly on gold, that's kind of an ugly chart right there. It almost came down to 24,900. 901 is what I have. Yeah, I feel you, Verisot. A lot of times if you don't, well, I shouldn't say a lot of times, but there are definitely some days where if you don't catch the opening move, then after that, it either doesn't give you an entry or it just gets choppy. That has kind of been the trend for the last, I don't know, month or so, I would say. Connerly time to bounce, as in like a long bounce. I don't know. Look at those candles, man. Don't tread along unless it's like in your system and you get confirmation for it. That would definitely be against the trend. Yeah, I was kind of wondering about 900 also. I didn't quite touch it though. Oh, it did on that last 1 minute candle. Somebody knows something. Yeah, I keep watching Financial Juice and I'm not seeing anything. Wow, Verisot. That long at 900, that was a good trade. All right, we still have 4 minutes left, but as of now, this is our initial balance low. When's the next giveaway? I'll probably do another one next week. This week has been a little bit funky. I'll get back on it next week. Moving is more fun than watching this? No. There's not many things that are more fun than moving. Or not many things that moving is more fun than. Yeah, if you guys haven't already, go hit that like button. I'd appreciate it. Everyone just get in a short. I don't know. I wouldn't just market order into a short now. Our initial balance is set. So let's see if it comes back down to IB low and maybe we get a bounce there. I think that'd be the only thing I would watch for for a long. Is if it comes back down to initial balance low and we get an aggressive buy up with volume. And maybe even something a little bit further down to like 830s, 820s, something like that. Pay someone to do the move for me. Yeah, that's what we're doing next time. It was a lot of work. And of course, the work isn't done. Like, we have all the big stuff moved into our house, but now everything is just a mess. There's boxes everywhere. Nothing has a place yet. It's trying to hold here. Yeah, the more it chops around in this level, if it does this for a few more minutes and kind of holds around 880-ish, where IB low is, and then gets a quick wick below with an aggressive buy up, that would be a long scenario I would watch for. Good advice, Drifter, but I don't think I'm planning on moving again anytime soon. That's enough for a while. What are you guys watching for? Anyone taking any trades right now? Or levels that you're watching? All right, we're breaking to the downside on the initial balance. Oh, yeah. Jack, it can always go lower. Quite a bit of chop over here. Watching to see. Might reclaim this IB low. Watching to see if we hold above IB low. This is, how big is our range? 456 points, 1.83%. Dang. Yeah, electric speed wheels. I'm watching to see if it holds this initial balance level. Yeah, I'm trying along. All right, 905.5 is where I entered. Gonna watch and see what happens at this New York anchored VWAP if we get up there. Where is our point of control? So this is kind of the accumulation before the big drop. There's a little high volume node on this current session. It's also kind of getting close to the midpoint of the range. Kind of leaning towards holding it back to like 150 if this thing stays strong. Something's weird on my... Ah, there we go. That's what I was looking for. So I was looking at the initial balance levels. There's a 25% retracement and then the 50% retracement is right here at like 114. We're at the 25% retracement right now. Still looking decently strong. Kovner Lee, finally what? Yeah, I see that failed auction on gold too, G-Man. That was good. Just passed another eval. Let's go. Congrats. IB is initial balance. So it's the first 60 minutes of the trading session for the New York session. I'm actually thinking about taking one off here. This is the 25% retracement. And so I use edge full. And it's showing on the breakdown, which is the one to the right, it hits the 25% retracement 57% of the time, and it only goes to the 50% retracement 35% of the time. And the 50% is actually what I'm targeting at 114. Still going though. All right, I'm taking off one there. I entered with 5, so I have 4 left. I'll take off one more. I'll leave 3 running. What made me go long when I did instead of waiting for a pullback to the initial balance low it did hit the initial balance low, so that was actually why I entered. So IB low was this white line right here, and it wicked down below it and aggressively got bought back up. So that was the failed auction that I was going for. All right, Chris, have a good one. So the 50% of the range is 25,113. That's also right around where the New York anchored VWAP is, which is like 25,100. So this general area is where I'm looking to hold. What is the initial balance low? Like, what's the number, or what does it mean? The number is 24,885. Yeah, that failed auction on gold, man. So if you guys aren't familiar with a failed auction, that's what I'm trading right now on NQ, and the same exact setup happened on gold too. Let me turn all this stuff off. So this right here was the initial balance low on gold. And it wicked down, reclaimed it, and aggressively got bought back up. That's a nice trade right there. So the initial balance is the first 60 minutes of the New York Open. The range. So the opening 9:30 candle was right here where my cursor is. And then you go all the way until 10:30. So the first hour, you mark off the high and the low. So the initial balance low was this white line right here. And a lot of times you can trade that as a range. So if it like comes back down and retests the range and gets bought back up, you can a lot of times take a long off of it, or vice versa. If it comes up to the top of the range and then rejects, you could potentially take a short off of it. Sometimes you get a good bounce. Sometimes it continues outside of the range, and that would be a breakout trend continuation. So you just kind of have to watch for confirmation on those trades. How many point stop did I use for my buy? Honestly, it happened really fast. So I was going to put my stop loss right here below that candle. So it was going to be about a 35 point stop loss. But it got bought up so fast that I moved to break even within like a minute and a half. So if I put my indicator back on, I was kind of showing you guys the edge full stats. This yellow line is the 25% retracement. We also have the weekly anchored VWAP, which is this gray line above. That's kind of where we're stuck right now. That's why I took off 40% of my position. Geez, G-Man, are you still holding your gold long? What a wild move. Good for you, man. You only need 2 micros in this kind of volatility. Maximilian, I think those are my tendencies. I do trade gold more during Asia because it typically moves better. If NQ is moving, then I'll trade NQ during Asia, but that's rare. And then I think my eyes just watch NQ more during that New York session. I do have gold on another screen, but I don't focus on it as much. I think it's just a matter of like training myself to watch more than one screen. Because, yeah, that setup on gold was beautiful. Thanks, Kyla. We'll see if we get continuation, though. Like I said, this is kind of a big level. And so this is you guys have been asking about Edgeful and like if it helps my trading. Today was a perfect example of it. Because one thing that I struggle with, I always try to be totally transparent with you guys. One thing I struggle with is holding my trades for that really big home run move and not taking profits and having like massive unrealized profits and then having it come down and hit my trailing stop loss. And I only get like 20 points out of the trade when I was up 100 points, for example. So today is a good example of that. Like I was up about 100 points is where I'm at right now. And I was about to hold the entire trade all the way up to that 114 to 120 TP that I was telling you guys about. But, and I know better, like mentally, I know better when I'm thinking in my right mind. But having Edgeful here to show the stats that says I'm kind of going against the data if I hold the entire trade up to that take profit point. Because it says 57% of the time it's only going to go to the 25% retracement, which is right where it's at right now. That means it could pull back here, and then it would just hit my trailing stop loss. I'm going for the target that only hits 35% of the time. So that helped me to like think rationally and take off a portion of my position. So that's an example of how I use Edgeful and how it's actually helped me a lot in my trading. How do I hold my trades so long? I struggle to hold. I think the first thing is I make sure I have my risk managed. Like mentally, I'm okay. When I enter a trade, I'm okay with taking the amount of loss that would, if it hits my stop loss, I'm okay with the loss. So I'm okay with letting the trade play out. If you're worried about how much money you're going to lose, you probably need to size down. And then the reason I'm still holding this is because, for one, I took off a portion of my position, so I'm already very green and my stop loss is in profit. So I would still make good money. And nothing has happened to make me think that this trade is reversing at this point. So I don't know. I guess those are all reasons for how I hold my trades. There you go, G-Man. Good trade. No, lactic acid law. I'm still in the trade. I took off 40% of the position and leaving a few runners. Gonna see if it hits this zone up here between the New York anchored VWAP at 25.93 and the 50% retracement is at 113. So somewhere in that zone is kind of what I'm aiming for. Do I only trade through prop firm accounts? Currently, yes. Planning on funding my own account and having that be the lead account and having the prop firms copy trade it. I'll let you guys know when I start that, but it'll be soon. No, I've never faced any issues with payouts, but I also don't trade with Top Step. I think they have kind of gone downhill and I won't trade with them again. Previous week, value area high. Are you asking like what the number is? Or how I got it? 25.28. And how I got it is the whole last week. So from last night's open, Sunday night, to Friday night close. And I leave it at that level all week. Like, I don't change it. It's not a moving 5 days of trading. Every weekend, I mark it off for the previous week, and I leave it there until the next weekend when I do it again. I don't know if we're going to get continuation. Might be pulling back. Go hit that like button if you guys haven't already. Maximilian, did that answer your question? What prop firms do I use? I currently have accounts with Lucid, Tradeify, and Trade Day. Lucid and Tradeify are my favorites. I've gotten several payouts from both of them. Never had any denial issues, never any like you need to submit video proof if Trade of 8 goes down. Like, they are very, very good. Their payouts are fast. Tradeify gives payouts within 2 hours. And Lucid, all of my payouts have been less than 2 minutes. Like, they're ridiculously fast. Their rules are fair. I think those are my 2 favorite prop firms. And then Trade Day has a little bit of a tougher eval phase, and their payouts are usually overnight, so they're within 24 hours you'll get payouts. But yeah, those are the 3 that I trade with. By the way, use code Krista on all those. I appreciate the support. If we break 25.32, it could be a good long. I personally wouldn't. I don't like breakout trades like that. I'm more of like a pullback trade person. I don't think I would personally take a long unless you're a scalper. Like, if you're only looking for 20 to 30 points, go for it. But the resistance I see is right overhead at 25.80-ish to 25.100. I mean, that's where my final target is. It could definitely go higher, but that's where I'm going to take profit. So Maximilian, I don't do like regular trading hours or anything. I do the fixed range volume profile for my previous week value area levels from Sunday night open at 6 p.m. and I drag it all the way across to Friday night close at, what is that, 5 p.m. So I just drag the whole week with electronic trading hours on. Yeah, lactic acid law, that's kind of my home run target, but I don't know. Looking pretty weak here. Yeah, electric speed wheels, that's why I don't take breakout trades. Unless you like wait for a 5-minute candle closure outside of a breakout or something like that. But if you're looking at the 1-minute chart, you can see that got up to 25.41. So it looked like it was breaking out and then it just dumped and pulled back. It was a 50-point drop. So either you would have to have a really wide stop loss or you would have taken a loss on it. You could, if you were looking for an entry long, you could look for it to come down to like 24,981 and possibly like a little liquidity sweep of that range low, because you can see we're kind of forming like a box right here. So you could assume that it would hold the bottom of this range and go back up, possibly. I'm not much of a range trader though. But yeah, I don't trade breakouts, I guess. Unless it's like at the New York Open and you're kind of trading momentum and you can easily, like really quickly put your stop loss in profit, perhaps. Do I trade only during my live sessions? No. I trade outside of that. My focused trading time is during the New York Open for the first 2 hours or so. But outside of that time, I do set alerts for specific levels that I'm watching. So that way, like, I can step away from my computer and go get other stuff done and not be sitting at my computer just really focused on trying to find a trade. Because if I do that for too long, then I start making up trade ideas that aren't really a part of my plan. So I'll usually sit at the computer and trade live with you guys for a couple hours. And then after that, I'll set alerts to tell me to come back if a trade might be setting up. And if I leave and I'm not in a trade, maybe I'm watching for something, I'll tell you guys what I'm watching for. Like, for example, right now, if I wasn't in a trade and I was leaving and looking for a trade, I would set an alert here at initial balance low at like 24,884. Because if it comes and retests this level again, you can watch for a bounce long or just kind of see what reaction happens there. And I would also set one up here around VWAP at 25,160-ish. Because I could see us possibly coming up here and rejecting. But I don't like set limit orders or anything like that. I just set alerts and then I come back and watch reactions at those levels. Ace Trades, good morning. What's up? All right, Electric Speed Wheels, have a good one. Before I got into trading, did I ever imagine I would get into something like this? No, I did not. I'm sure you've heard me say before, I was a gym owner for about 15 years. And before that, I was a personal trainer, and I always wanted to be an athletic trainer. Like, ever since high school, I knew what I wanted to be, and I stuck with that track for 25 years of my life. I've never done anything with, like, finance or investing or anything like that. So, no, this is not, like, something I dreamed about in college and wanted to be a trader when I grew up. I love it though. Like it's not just about the money for me. I actually love sitting in front of the charts and drawing levels and watching the patterns and all that stuff. I probably love it a little bit too much. I have to like force myself to get up and walk away because then I do stupid stuff if I sit in front of the computer too long. When I was a kid in middle school, I took a drafting class. I don't even know if they do stuff like that anymore because everything is so like computer generated. But it was one of those classes where you would like design a building that you're going to build and you like have the rulers and the protractors and all those things. And I loved drawing those. So I love patterns and lines and charts. I also took an art class in high school. And I loved the abstract kind of art. Where again, you make like the kind of the stained glass window type of designs. That's the only thing I can think of to say why I like charts so much, is I've always liked patterns and lines and math. I love math. I was really good at math, or am really good at math, I guess. So it's just something that I enjoy. My first ever personal training certification was also with ISSA. Since then, I've gotten a bunch. I have a ton of different certifications and stuff. How did I become a gym owner? I don't know. I guess I've always been business minded, entrepreneur minded. So I was a personal trainer at, big box gyms. I had a couple different jobs at like LA Fitness and 24-Hour Fitness. And I remember we had to sell the personal training packages, and I would sell packages for like $70 to $80 per session, and they would buy like 40 to 50 sessions. So there were these thousands and thousands of dollars being spent, and I would get paid $20 an hour or $22 an hour, depending on the job. And I just remember dreading every single sale that I made, and like just feeling every day like it was not fair. So I always had that little voice in the back of my head, like, I could do this crap on my own. This is stupid. And then I got introduced to CrossFit. I found CrossFit. And back then, back in the day, 15 years ago, CrossFit was very like garage style gym where you could just have a couple of old rusty weights and a jump rope and like have an amazing workout. Nowadays they open up in retail centers with like air conditioning and $100,000 worth of equipment. But that rugged style gym kind of made the whole gym ownership thing seem accessible. Because I looked into like Snap Fitness franchises and stuff like that, and I was like, gosh, you have to have like $1 million in assets and $150,000 cash. And I was a 20-year-old kid. I was like, there is no way. I'm never going to be able to accomplish that. So when I was introduced to CrossFit, I was like, okay, I can do this. I can get some old equipment off of Craigslist at the time. Craigslist isn't really around anymore. So I bought about $2,000 worth of equipment and started training my clients out of a park. So I pretty much had like no overhead and not much of an investment, and just slowly grew our clients, and then eventually rented out a tiny little 1,800 square foot like warehouse, and then just grew from there till eventually I sold it. And it was an 8,000 square foot building that I own, because we were able to like continue to invest in it. And we had several hundred members. So just kind of grew it organically. That is how I became a gym owner. You were going to become a kinesiologist. Yeah, that was my field of study. I went to Texas A&M and I studied kinesiology. I wanted to be an athletic trainer, but decided not to do that because I started looking at job postings, and they made at the time like $45,000-$50,000 a year. I was like, no thanks. I'm never gonna make a good living. You have to make good money as an athletic trainer, you have to work with like a high level team, like a Division I football team or an NBA team or something like that. And I just felt like that was something that was going to happen way down the line. All right, it's coming up towards that New York anchored VWAP level. I'm watching to see what happens at 25.85-ish. Yeah, Drifter, the money wasn't good and the hours sucked. Like, if you want to have a family and actually ever see your kids, that's not going to happen. Because, you know, you had to be at every practice. Maybe that would be like a 5 a.m. swim practice or a 6 p.m. football practice. And then you have to travel with the team and Friday night games and Saturday games. I was like, man, that's a rough schedule. All right, I'm trailing my stop loss closer. Just because we had this big accumulation, like chop here. And if we get back into that range, that's a sign of weakness for me. So I don't want to see it come that low. Probably actually bring it a little bit higher. That's a good question, Maximilian. I don't trade VWAP breaks just because I feel like there's a lot of fake outs. So I use VWAP to show who's in control. Like in general, obviously I look for other confluences and higher time frame context. But in general, if it's below VWAP, I look for shorts. If it's above VWAP, I look for longs. Or if I'm taking a mean reversion trade, which is what I'm in right now, I use it as a target. Because, yeah, I could see that being a spot where we get a pullback. Or up here at that VWAP. But I feel like that's a little bit greedy. If we are trending, then and VWAP is a good spot on the trend, then sometimes I'll take a bounce trade off of VWAP. But mostly if there's other context, like maybe if the 15-minute opening range high is also where VWAP is and it's like a breakout long and it comes back down and retests the 15-minute opening range high with VWAP there. So kind of just extra confluence. But I don't trade it alone, if that answers your question. Yeah, as our trader, that's the trade that I'm in right now. It was the IB initial balance failed auction. So the mean reversion, I don't necessarily look at a specific time frame. Really, that's just how I find my targets. Because we were so extended to the downside, And I entered along when we took this failed auction. So what I mean by mean reversion is kind of just, that's where my target is. Coming back to the average for the day. And we're getting there. But obviously the trend for today is down. So I'm not going to like hold this expecting to go all the way back up to the top of the range or anything crazy. It could happen. But that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We got 50 likes. If you guys haven't already, go hit that like button. I'd appreciate it. An easy, free way to support the channel. And if you guys are buying any prop firm accounts, that's a way to support the channel too. Especially if you already are getting an account. Use code Krista. I appreciate it. And if you guys are new here, hit that subscribe button and join the Discord. There's a link in the chat for Discord. I share trading ideas and stuff in there. Levels that I'm watching. And if I'm taking any trades outside of the live sessions, like if one of my alerts went off, I'll let you guys know what I'm watching for. This is New York anchored VWAP. The midpoint of the range is 25,114. No, I don't DM people. It was probably a spammer, scammer, whatever you want to call it. If you have a question, you can put it in the Discord chat, or you're welcome to like find me and my posts and click on my name and send me a DM. I don't check my DMs that often because I get so many of them, but yeah, that wasn't me. I'm not trying to like sell you a copy trading thing or anything like that. Yeah, I'm still in that trade. I'm going to take off one more right now. So I'll have 2 left. Because it did come up to that New York anchored VWAP. And it's getting a little pullback. And then I'll try my stop up. Can Asia sessions use the prop firms? Like, can you trade your prop firms during Asia? Or are you talking about, like, if you live over in Asia or China or something like that, can you use prop firms? You would have to look at the country restrictions. But, I mean, most of the big countries, you can use prop firms. I know Tradeify and Lucid and Trade Day and all those you can. Do I have an Instagram? I do. Fit Mom Trader. Malaysia, I'm not sure. You would have to check with the individual prop firms. I know they do have restricted countries, so I'm not sure. All right, gang. I think I'm just going to let this thing run because it's chopping around, getting to that slow point of the day, and I've already taken off 60% of my position. So I only have 2 runners left. I'm going to set my final target up at 150 since that's where the session VWAP is. And then it could hit my trailing stop loss too. So either my trailing stop loss, which is way in profit, or 150. We'll see how it goes with those last 2 contracts. But I think I'm going to hop off. Like I said, I'm moving and I'm sitting in a room that has boxes everywhere and it's starting to drive me crazy. I got to go make a dent in this unpacking. Thanks for hanging out with me today, you guys. Hit that like button on the way out if you haven't already. Use code Krista at Prop Firms, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care.